Live. Welcome to Marriage with Joy, which is the most open discussion on the internet about the positive, purposeful, powerful, pleasant aspects of living in harmony with matrimony. Marriage with Joy unabashedly discusses the most interesting questions raised by listeners. Our informed and informative panel addresses issues with thought, wit, and aplomb. Voted best of the web 2 years running. Good day, beautiful, bountiful, beloved, immortal beings, and good-looking people. Now, how can I make the categorical statement that all the thousands and thousands of people that are tuning in to Marriage with Joy are all good-looking? Because by definition, if you made the conscious, conscientious decision to tune in, it means you're always looking for and finding the good in life. Because that's what Marriage with Joy is all about, looking for and finding the good in life. I am deeply honored to be able to work with some remarkable people. Dr. Diane Medved, Lori McDermott, who's hiding right now. She's in Mexico. God willing, she'll be able to connect and be with us. And I just want to make mention something that Maura has said on a couple of occasions, and I think everybody echoes it, that we're in a battle, and we're fighting the battle for truth, justice in the American way, which equals marriage. Marriage is a foundational process that really is a bedrock of society. And when that bedrock is either moved, shifted in such a way that it becomes unknowable and it hurts the rest of the building, or is being attacked with sledgehammers to knock it out from its very root, then it creates a ripple effect through society that is not beneficial. This is really important. You see, it's one thing if you come up with an alternative that seems to be as good or better. In this particular case, marriage is being attacked by people simply because it's marriage and it's there and we don't like it. That is what the forces of negativity have pronounced. It's an attack in the negative sense rather than, look what we have to offer. The offer is, to put it mildly, not enticing unless hedonism appeals to you. Now, by the way, let's be blunt. For people in the age group of 16 to 22, and maybe even for men of the age of 40 to 50, hedonism may actually be something beneficial. But that's only short-lived, because that's lust rather than love and all the other benefits that come. So marriage is an institution that really is fundamental to happiness, in my humble opinion, and certainly the people that have joined with us here, Dr. Diane Medved and Maura Sweeney and Lori. I'm especially looking forward to this month's session, because I've asked that each one of us, and here she is, fresh out of the Mexican lagoon. She was swimming in Puerto Vallarta, or wherever she is. I don't know where she is. And she's joining us, wonderful Lori McDermott, the wife expert. And as I said, I'm looking forward to today's session because I've asked each one of us to bring to the table and to share with people what are the three major reasons that you see as a benefit to marriage. And it's something that obviously is unique to each person. And I can attest for marriage in the sense that I have been married to the same person, a woman, and I know what a woman is, for 45 years continuously. And that is considered a long time in today's world. Well, actually, it's always been a long time. So I have somewhat of a bias built in. And you've been through stuff when you go for marriage for 45 years. By the same token, you could be married only for 5 or 10 years and you've been through stuff. It all depends on what's going on. But it really begins with what is it that you're looking for? What did you do when you first entered in the process of looking for a marriage partner? And what are the three things that either are the same then or have emerged now after years of matrimony. So as we are in the habit, we have a great team, one of the greatest teams on the internet, by the way, millions and millions of podcasts. And I think we rate as certainly in the top 0.1% of all podcasts in the world. Yes. Not only because of the subject, because of the people. So we like to have our leadoff batter up there who can hit it out of the park every single time. As Dr. Diane Medved up in the great Northwest of the United States of America, shivering in Seattle, although not today so much it said, but it is the end of January, so it should be. And we're going to ask Diane if you'd be so kind to begin the process and share with us the three items that you have selected of the many that you think really bring benefit to a marriage, why people should get married, or in your opinion, what are three reasons that can help people either enter into matrimony, stay married, and make it that which we all want to be, which is living joy daily?
Well, first of all, you had asked us to come up with the three reasons to get and stay married. And I happen to have in the last chapter of my book, Don't Divorce.
Wait a minute. Don't divorce. Double D. Don't divorce.
The 5 unique benefits of marriage that you can't get in any other kind of relationship. And I sort of condense them down and have 3 that sort of, I think, are not what people think of. Because when you get married, you're thinking, well, I'll have somebody to love for the rest of my life who will love me. You're thinking, well, we have great communication, so we'll be supportive to each other. You think this is a lot more permanent than just shacking up. Those are all kind of normal things. But I tried to come up with 3 things that are slightly a little bit more elaborate than that. The first one being marriage is a safe place to grow and to face life's calamities and to make mistakes. In other words, what I see as marriage is that it's not a relationship with a short-term view. We lead our lives with short-term views in many ways. Even in our jobs now, we're looking to change and go to the next one, or get a raise, or change our position, whatever it is in the community. Kids are growing and changing, but marriage is something that is the long-term view. You go into it, your vista is not short term, it's not a few years, it's not as long as love shall last, but marriage means a lifetime. And you are together and you plan so that if bad things happen, you always have a backup. You have a person to come to, you have a safe haven, and you are able to give mutually. The second thing is marriage is a celebration of opposites. You are not expected to be like your partner, especially if it's a male and a female. You're expected to be different. In the Bible, God creates woman as an ezer kenegdo, which means a helpmate opposite you. Someone to be different than you, someone to give you feedback from an opposite perspective. And only in marriage can you do that, can you criticize kindly with the knowledge that you're on the same team. You are the same body. You are the same growth symptom of the future. So because together, that is the only way that you can continue. So that allows you the luxury of having a helpmate opposite you who can give you construction, can give you suggestions, can tell you where you're going off or where you don't please the other. It's where you can be honest. And that is a unique kind of relationship because you know you're on the same team always. And the third one was marriage is a chance to emulate God. And most people don't think that. It's not just in the fact that you can create children, which is so miraculous. I remember when I had my daughter, Sarah, my first child, I'd put her in her little swing thing and she would be asleep. And I go, that human being came out of me? How did that be? I made, with God's help, I made a human being who has a personality, who is separate, who's going to have ideas, who's growing outside. How could this be? It's amazing and miraculous. Anyone who's a parent knows that feeling. But aside from that, you have a way to emulate God that's beyond that. And that is, why did God make the world? And the reason we believe, at least as Jewish people, is to show chesed, to give. And so we have a way to emulate God in that in marriage, we have a place where we can give, where we can be benevolent. And it's always there every day. And it always can change and grow and build on itself. And so those are the three things. And lastly, I want to say staying married gives you another benefit. It is only after going through years together and suffering perhaps on whatever God hands you to deal with, and everyone has something that comes into their life. It's only by weathering those things together and supporting each other together that you can create a soulmate. People say, oh, I'm marrying my soulmate. This is the person I love. This is like the reflection of me. Nobody has a soulmate on the day they get married. They have to create a soulmate. And that is an argument for staying married, because all the things that you go through, the ups, the downs, the happinesses, the things imposed on you, all of that is what binds you together and makes you have a real soulmate. So in the end, those are the three things, plus this extra benefit of, in the end, living your life and looking back saying, we created this. We're together. So.
Just as long as we're together, it doesn't matter at all. So I'd like to unpack a few things I may. Wonderful Diane, thank you so much for beginning that. This first idea of a place to grow, and the corollary of that is to make mistakes. Oh my gosh, is there a human being that ever thinks that you're never going to make mistakes? By definition, it's the nature of the human condition to make mistakes. Fall down, pick yourself up, fall down, pick yourself, et cetera, et cetera. Now, that can get a bit tiresome if you're doing it on your own. If you have somebody to work with you and that can help interject, like you said, the ability to critique kindly. See, the genius that I found about marriage, and it does take time, by the way, is that each one recognizes that you want to be kind. Being kind is a wonderful situation. Everybody wants to have kindness showered on them. It's not as easy to be giving of kindness. So as my wife taught me, it's at least 20 years ago, she said these words to me, and they've stuck with me all this time. I say them almost daily. She said, it's not enough to be able to give. Giving is nice. But she said, I want to be, and I'd like you to be, willingly giving. Now, what is it? She told me what she meant. She said, oftentimes if you give something to somebody and you're expecting something in return, that's not giving. That's called trading. I'm giving you something, I expect something in return. Mm-hmm. When you willingly give, without even expectation of anything in return, then you can graciously receive. Those are her words. She's a very wise woman. Willingly giving, graciously receiving. And that happens, I believe, as you said so eloquently, in this context of this remarkable process that emulates God, the creator. Oh my gosh, what words. Got to be careful if we're saying these things. We could be hauled away by the FBI these days. Don't get caught praying on the webinar, Okay. Then that is a genius of this remarkable situation that was created by the good Lord called marriage. It's not as if people thought of it. It's biblical. It's a very nice situation. It goes back from the beginning of time. Wonderful, Maura. Do you have 3 particular ideas that you'd like to share regarding marriage?
Of course I do. But I want to say this. As I listened to you, Diane, I'm thinking we are all asked the same question. So 4 of us are weighing in on this. We're all looking at the same issue of marriage. And it's like looking at different vantage points at the same beautiful picture. But from that, it's like we're picking out the different aspects of a crystal. Yours, I have to say, Diane, they were very rich and very beautiful. And so I hope I could add to that a little bit and add a little bit of sparkle. I would say the three best reasons to get married, or three good reasons, is when you have truly found someone that not only you love, but you also respect. And when you find someone like that, you make a commitment so that even when things get challenging, you always have the bedrock of love and respect beneath it, which goes into the big thing Barry was saying, marriage. Marriage is an institution. It's a commitment. It's a heart-to-heart spiritual connection as well as physical one that puts its hope in the future, that puts its hope in love and trust and growth of two people coming together to make something better. And I think, Barry, when you said it's been so much under attack, it is, specifically because of its longevity. And it doesn't make a difference how long it's been around. There are things that our hearts need. So here's the thing. First one I put down, you found someone you love and respect. And when you have those as bedrocks, they are the bedrocks that help you to continue to move forward even when things do become challenging. The second one, so obvious, is companionship. Do you know, it's funny, ever since I knew what the topic was, I went around, I was asking several people for their input. And one person said to me, I could have done life alone. But she said having companionship and living life and navigating through it with another has made it so much more enriching. And it's true. We can live life solo, but we can take the journey together, and it makes it that much richer. The third part of it, or the third reason I would say, is that by joining with another person, Diane, I loved what you said. I never heard about it. I know the idea of a helpmeet, but when you said opposites and how the opposites look back at each other, I know we've had that in our marriage now 42 years. And I tell this to my husband all the time. I'm so glad he's someone else looking at me with another perspective and honestly sharing with me what he knows, what he sees, so that in each case, we're mirroring back to each other and contributing to each other's lives something that enhances us, that brings out the best, that brings out the truth, that really uplifts us. But it's this, when two people get together and they commit to a long-term marriage, what you have is not only individual growth in terms of going through life. Two people are more than 1 + 1. The two together become so much more as a third entity. And there's a level to personal growth. And there's also a sense of enrichment to the soul, not only what two individuals can experience in and among themselves, but it's also an expression to the rest of the family, the extended family, the community, and the society. And I'm going to add this as my little PS, and I think that's one reason why you say there's such a culture war, because what marriage brings to society is so old and so ancient, but also is so enduring and hopeful for our future. And it's a bedrock. So that's my input.
Shoo-wee. So let me unpack a couple of things here, if I may, because I think you're hitting on something. I love these words, obviously, respect and commitment. It's in a world where people are more and more atomized, literally living on one's own or thinking you're living one's own, the ability to gain respect of another person and therefore have self-respect is not so simple. That happens oftentimes only, or more productively, in a setting where, as Diane pointed out, you can actually grow, which means be able to make mistakes. Growth is a wonderful thing. Everybody wants it. You think, it's always going to be the right way. We just had this great weekend of football. That was the last weekend. So games and such. And you're talking about the best of the best, right? But if you look at the records, I think they play 17 games. So the best record was 12-5. That means they won 12 games and lost 5 games. They lost games. Can you imagine? Oh my gosh, we lost. Yes, because that happens. That's part of life, right? So the ability to respect and be committed, and the companionship really strikes me very deeply. And I think it has to do with, as you said, you lead a much richer life. So Diane mentioned the word soul. Whenever I talk about this in group settings, I say everybody wants to find their soulmate, as you mentioned, Diane. So soul can be spelled in 2 different ways. SOUL is what people really mean. But the way people live today is SOLE. You know, they live on their own. And that's not the best way to grow as a human, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can still do it. There's no question. By and large, though, you enlarge yourself by being the best you can be. And that's that hope for the future is something that, again, that's part of the attack. The to be forlorn and to have a dystopian view in today's world is really what's happening. And unfortunately, it's infecting mostly people that we call younger people. People under the age of 25, certainly under the age of 18, have a view where they're being told that the world could end. There is this thoughts that never entered the mind of anybody on this panel when we were growing up. It was not part and parcel of the worldview. You know, we didn't grow up in East Germany. East Germany was a dystopian world. That's not America. So it's an amazing shift. It's certainly not the majority, but there's enough of the infiltration into the younger generations that unless there's an alternative push for what we're discussing here today, which is joy, happiness, peace, and love, there could be dystopia could take over utopia. Speaking of utopia, wonderful, Lori, are you in Mexico?
Yes.
Okay. Are you going to reveal?
Yeah, forgive me I'm in Puerto Vallarta. Forgive me. I reserved this room down below. And I was thinking our meeting was earlier and I forgot I was on Central Time. So I was like, oh no. And they closed the building. So I had to come up here, but my husband was up here on his work calls. So I couldn't come in. So I decided, well, I'll just take a shower. But then I couldn't come back in here. So it was like the last minute I got in here, grabbed my computer, scurried outside because he's like, shh.
It's all good. It's all good.
It's marriage. You just work together.
Yes, exactly.
Right? And so when we were talking about, I'm like, it's every day. When you
if you could have pulled it off, you could have done the webinar from the shower. That would have really been something good.
That would have been, I was naked about 5 minutes before the start. So anyway, bottom line is marriage is a dance. Three
highlights for you about marriage.
So one of my favorites is that we get unconditional love. And
Say it again?
lot of people, unconditional love. Someone accepts you for who you are. So when you get married, you know that person has your back and they love you and all your warts and all these things that aren't so good about you, they love you anyway. I love that. That's my favorite thing about marriage, because no matter what I do, my husband's still going to love me, because that's how we love our kids. So that's one. The other thing I love is the safety and security that comes with marriage. It's like, you don't have to worry, oh my gosh, who will I be going to a date with next weekend? Oh, I guess I'll take my husband, right? You feel safe. Go to bed together. It's a fire in the middle of the night. You know you got your husband with you. We had a fire in my oven last Saturday. A fire walked by and I screamed and he came running. And the two of us were like, oh, it's like, where is that fire extinguisher? And we're both like, did you put it? Or it wasn't, no one was blaming. It was like, you just solve it, right? That was a very interesting. We've talked about that all week, how we did this dance and we didn't panic and we figured out everything. And then it's like, do we have the direct line to the fire engines? Because otherwise you call 911 in LA and it leads you someplace else. So we were ready and it was interesting. And the other thing that I love about the idea of getting married, why should someone get married, is because you build a kingdom. And it's not just for today. It's not for tomorrow. It's for generations to come. And nobody remembers that. It's like we are the beginning of the roots of a new tree. Mm-hmm. And we just carry that on and continue that. And to me, I think everybody forgets about that. People go their whole lives and think they're dying and they don't, have anyone, maybe they have friends, but they're not leaving anything. You get married, you're leaving a legacy. That's it.
Let's unpack actually go to the second one first. So I love this word, security. Security in the sense that that there's that being that's there that you care for, that cares for you. So that just removes an entire weight off of one's mind about, let's say, money. Let's use that as an example, because finances are an important part of marriage. Hello, because it's an important part of life. If you are working together, and let's be blunt, sometimes there are crazy people and there's shenanigans. Okay, we're not talking about that. We're talking about general situations of man and woman, husband, wife, to get working together and working on finances and recognizing we're here together. Either both work, one works, whatever it is that works to create that secure home environment, as Diane said, for raising up these little things that were just beings, and all of a sudden they get bigger and bigger, as if you poured water on them. They're pretty soon they're sequoias, but then they have their own ideas and things like that. So the ability to have that word security, how powerful, because I think it's a rare situation. I'm telling you, I meet a lot of people who are either not married or, thinking maybe one day will be, but it's not really on their radar yet. And they use the word security, or they feel insecure. Interesting enough, even when they have a job or a career, it's much more about job or career than it is the ability to be with another being and feel safe, secure. Now, unconditional love is, we're not going to go into it now because of time and such. It is a really powerful term, and it ranges, because unconditional love is, I'm going to love you no matter what. Now, if you turn out to be an addict, well, my unconditional love is that I'm going to find help for you, as opposed to nurturing your addiction. Let's be blunt. In other words, unconditional love doesn't mean you're a puppy and I'm always going to take care of you. It's the ability to be, as I think it was either Diane or Maura, honesty. See, the genius, I think, of marriage is that honesty factor, right? The ability to speak to someone else and knowing that you're giving criticism kindly. It doesn't mean, by the way, that you can't raise your voice sometimes to get attention or hit somebody with a 2x4, because I was involved helping some friends that one of them was an addict. It's a very difficult situation. Now, I will tell you, it took 3 years and the person came through it.
Wow.
But during that time, you can rip the heart out, because people go out of their mind. So I love the idea of unconditional love, but just to be clear, when we're talking about, because we're talking to an audience of thousands of people, it's not just, I will always love you, and, as you've always taught me, and I will make sure that whatever needs to be done, I'm here to help. And sometimes that help means getting help, right?
Can I say something?
Yes.
It's the same thing people have for their kids. It's that unconditional love they have for the kids, but not for my spouse. No. He did this bad thing. It's not that. We should have the same type of love for our spouses that we do for our children. And to me, that if you get that, you get gold.
Okay.
Because not everybody figures that out.
Very, very wonderful point. Thank you so much. And we can speak it out. Being married does not always mean having children. I mean, sometimes I know a number of couples that don't have children, not because they don't want. Stuff happens. Or adopting. I mean, there's just so many things that happen in a marriage that the idea, the vision didn't go the way everybody thought, because it's called life. Life is kind of fun and interesting and fascinating, isn't it? And yet it's fun and interesting and fascinating. Oh my gosh, what are we going to do now? You get that security, that other being. Wow, there's what to depend upon. solid foundation, that security. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Shore, you're up. What are the three things that you find so fascinating? So I'm going to say the three things for me are: number one, actually, it's not number one, but one of the three is what I call a shared vision. And it could be shared values and such. But when my wife and I met, and we courted, as it were, I guess, for almost a year and a half or so, like that, and we come from different traditions and yet the same tradition. So my wife was born in Bangkok, Thailand. She was raised there. She spent a lot of her years outside of Thailand in the United States, and interesting enough, in Israel, because her father's Jewish. And it's a whole wonderful long story. And how we met is because she said something to me. We were working at the same place. And when I was leaving early for the Sabbath on Friday afternoon, she said something to me in Hebrew. And I looked at this little Oriental lady. I said, "What? Who are you?" So it got us to speaking, because she wasn't just another person. And it was, but so the idea of being able to speak and have a shared vision for what we want to do as married people, it's really, I found it fascinating to be able to speak out my mind and not be afraid, because I had done that with a few other people that I thought maybe I was going to marry, and sometimes it backfires. People look and say, "You want that? You want that?" Again, it's the ability to be able to speak and to grow. Number two, I wrote down this word. You're going to love this, Maura. Companionship. Companionship. Isn't it wonderful to be able to hang out with somebody you dig? I know for a fact that Michael and Diane love being with each other. I mean, I know, I've been in the home, I saw, just they dig being with each other. I use an old term from the, when it was 17, 18, 20. It's so, excuse the expression, it's so cool to be able to want to be with somebody that you like. No matter the circumstance, even sometimes even the most difficult circumstance. And I've been through stuff. I was a quadriplegic. I was in a hospital bed in my own home for 2 years. I couldn't turn over on myself. My wife had to take care of me every single day for years. Companionship. I come in the house after swimming and I'm singing to my wife. Now she thinks I'm crazy, but no, she doesn't even think. She knows I'm crazy, but it's wonderful. It's companionship. That's something really special, and certainly not easy to find. I think we'd all agree, right? Mm-hmm. And that takes time. That's Barry Shore is like an acquired taste. Like everybody's an acquired taste, right? Okay. Mm-hmm. And then I wrote down the next one, and I think you're going to love this all. Maura, you and I were channeling. I wrote down the word future. Mm-hmm. The ability to be married means, by definition, you're looking at the future. Whether you do have children or not, you understand that the future is with people who are married. It's built on this word hope. Hope stands for helping others progress every day. Helping others progress every day. That's the genius of future. It's not just that, gee, what's it going to be like? Okay, everybody knows. Nobody knows what the future is going to bring. Who would know that in 2024 we'd be in the midst of wars raging and the economy falling apart and a southern border being invaded? And those are just the headlines. What's going on in the streets of the cities. Yeah, but we have hope for the future, because marriage is built on a foundation of trust, honesty, integrity, and the ability to know that things will be better, because we've all been through stuff. Am I right when I say this? So those are the things that I find were really fundamental: a shared vision, ability to have companionship, and a hope for the future. So I'm deeply touched, humbled, and honored, as I say on every show, that you make the time that we're together doing this. And I can tell you that we're making a difference in people's lives. You should know that. And it's really something very special. And sorry to say that our time has come to an end, but I think this is really good. Would you like to each have a 60-second wrap up? Diane, would you like to say something in 58 seconds to leave us all with?
Sure. I mean, what comes to mind first is how appreciative I am of you, and that you have a place on the internet where people can rely on for joy. And it's not just talking about all the negatives, it's the contrary. We're finally a balance to everything that you see in the newspaper, which can be, as you mentioned, quite depressing. Here we have a place to remind us that we are so blessed, and we have an opportunity here on this planet to bind with somebody else and create more than who we are. And it's thanks to you that we have this reminder every month, and that I have the ability to meet these wonderful women, as well as continue our relationship that we've had for so long. You were at my wedding 39 years ago on Saturday.
Right.
So yes, you were. And were a big part of our lives for quite a number of years. And so we're grateful for all of that. And it's a wonderful thing when people can build up friendships that come out from the coupleness of the two of you. So I just want to express my gratitude to you and to Maura and Lori for this opportunity.
Woo-wee! Yay, Diane. Maura, what would you like to say in 60
I can
seconds?
say ditto to what Diane said. She was like, wait a minute, we're not expecting something after this. I will share this not publicly, because you know, Barry, that just about every single month after we all hang up, what do I do with my phone? I write and I thank you in our group setting, because there is something about your willingness to create a space for all of us to get together and focus in on marriage, which is something you do not see uplifted and focused upon in our culture. And I think, for my sake, and I know I'm probably speaking for all of us, you're enriching all of our lives by enabling us to remind ourselves about the richness that we have by having a marriage that we can all grow in, and helping and hopefully encouraging others to get into one, to endure through one, to grow through one, and to love and expand through one too. So thank you.
Woo-wee! Them's loving words. Wonderful, Lori.
Yes, I did owe both of them. And all I'm going to add is that, this is such a better, there's nothing better than being on something positive. And I appreciate that. And it's all because of you, Barry, because this is who you are. And, having a way to express it. And, I'm grateful that I can be on this platform with you. I think it's amazing. And, that other one that happened, it was like, we did a divorce thing, and it was like, I kept wanting to shift it all. And I kept going, I'm thinking it wrong. But I'm a pro-marriage person. I'm an advocate. I will step in a conversation and interrupt people and tell them my thoughts about what they're discussing if it's the opposite, because I don't think people believe anyone feels the other way. I really don't. It's that groupthink culture. So I'm vocal.
Outstanding. And again, thousands and thousands of people are touched by this. So we're going to keep it going, growing, and it's fabulous. So as we do a group hug at the conclusion of every show. Remember what HUG stands for? Heartfelt, unlimited giving. So on the count of three, if you please. 1, 2, 3. And our blessing from these amazing, wonderful beings, and your humble host, Barry Shore, the ambassador of joy. Go forth, live exuberantly, spread the seeds of joy, happiness, peace, and love. Go mad. Go make a difference. Welcome to Marriage with Joy, which is the most open discussion on the internet about the positive, purposeful, powerful, pleasant aspects of living in harmony with matrimony. Marriage with Joy unabashedly discusses the most interesting questions raised by listeners. Our informed and informative panel addresses issues with thought, wit, and aplomb. Voted best of the web 2 years running.